going to try to ask you during the presentation. I'll see how that goes. I'm not quite sure how that's going to work with the flow. So with that, I'm going to launch PowerPoint here. I'm going to start this off with a quick video. So give me 1 second as I do this. All right. Okay, again, so the Living with Fire is our 2-hour presentation. It's really what encompasses our whole education program at Fire Safe Marin. We call this Living with Fire in recognition of the importance of understanding that wildfires are a natural part of Marin's environment. Wildfires have been here in Marin, in Northern California, the Western US, longer than there have been people here. And there are going to continue to be wildfires. We're going to have to learn to live with fires. The landscape of fires is changing. We understand that that's why there's such an interest in wildfires and preparedness, especially after the last 3 years. We're working to bring you the information that you need to safely live in Marin County. Bear with me as we watch this. This is intended to set the stage. It's a 2.5-minute video that's going to show you a lot of what not to do and a few things what you might expect during a wildfire evacuation.
Fires raging in California. 2 of them exploded in size with frightening speed.
The homes are becoming involved. It's blackout condition. We're surrounded by fire. I have people in the cars. The road is blocked. We need assistance immediately. Unit at the River Hospital. We've got 4 people trapped in the basement. Looks like it's surrounded by fire. They're safe underneath, but they can't get out. Homes are shelter in place.
Even if people can evacuate their homes, this is what they have to contend with. Thick smoke.
Someone's abandoned a vehicle in the roadway north of you. I'm going to try and get there on foot. We've got the fire coming southbound Skyway, where it's Skyway and Mofty. We've got the road completely blocked. Need somebody to be able to open it up and get people out of here. It's not looking good for get people out. We have 1 patient approximately burns over 45%.
Over the last 24 hours, there have been harrowing accounts of people literally abandoning their vehicles and getting out to run for their lives.
To go off water. West Air Resources to drop water there. Stand by.
So that was really intended to set the stage and just remind you of some of what you've been watching for the last few years unfold before you. All of those fires pictured there were within 100 miles of where we're sitting right now. That's opened with the Oakland Hills fire in 1991 and ended with the Camp Fire in November of 2018. We want to emphasize that Marin has a long history of wildfires. 101 years ago, 1919 was the first urban conflagration that burned dozens of homes in Marin and Sausalito. 1923, Marin's largest fire burned from Novato all the way to Bolinas near the ocean. 1929, the Great Fire in the city of Mill Valley burned 1,100 acres, about 110 homes in downtown, above downtown Mill Valley. 1945, the old mill fire, and I'll bet you many of you remember the 1995 Vision Fire in West Marin, burned 45 homes. So this history is real. This has been with us in Marin for a long time. So long, in fact, that in 1917, Marin voters voted to tax themselves to create the first wildfire forest firefighting district in the country, a fire department that would be dedicated just to fighting wildfires. We followed that up just last month with the creation of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, which we won't really talk about tonight, but Marin's history with this is long and deep. All of those fires in Marin's history happened under one set of weather conditions. They happened when the winds are blowing out of the northeast. In Southern California, we call that the Santa Ana winds. In Northern California, for at least the last 30 years, we've referred to them as the Diablo winds. They're winds that are blowing from the direction of Mount Diablo, the connotation of the devil's winds. These are warm, dry winds that blow from the Great Basin out from the desert. They really start near Salt Lake City, and by the time they reach the Bay Area, the coastal mountains, they have accelerated over the Sierra Nevada. They're dry, they're hot, and they're blowing hard. You saw some of those winds. You felt the winds just last October 27th. We had potentially catastrophic conditions in Marin with wind gusts over 70 miles an hour along the ridge tops. So tonight we're going to focus on personal safety, personal preparedness, evacuation preparedness. When we talk about that, we break the discussion down into this: ready, set, and go. Very specific meanings. We want you to be ready with personal preparedness. These are things that you'll do to prepare yourself long before a fire starts. We want you to be set with situational awareness. That means we want you to have an understanding of when the conditions are right for a wildfire. We want you to pay attention to what's happening outside and in your neighborhood. And then we want you to evacuate early, go early when a fire starts. Tonight, again, we're only going to talk about the first of 4 steps of preparedness, personal preparedness. We're going to do other presentations later in the week. This Wednesday, we'll do one on hardening your home. We're going to do presentations in the future about defensible space and then community organizing, our Firewise program. We're going to talk about being set with situational awareness and weather awareness. This is an awareness of the weather that you should be paying close attention to during the fire season. You need to understand that fires can strike any day. There was a wildfire that damaged structures yesterday in Marin County in Novato. During extreme fire weather, during red flag warnings, you need to be hyper vigilant. Anytime there's a wildfire burning nearby, that might have been yesterday afternoon in Black Point in Novato, it could be any given day during the summer here in Marin or Northern California. And we need you to always monitor alerting systems. That's a really important part of being set for a wildfire. We're going to talk about what those alerting systems are, how you can get notifications when there's a fire burning. So, fire weather, monitoring that weather. The weather is really the common denominator. It's the factor that played into every one of those major fires that we've talked about in Marin's history and Northern California's history. The National Weather Service issues a red flag warning when they predict conditions that will be conducive to the explosive growth of a wildfire. That red flag warning is issued by meteorologists. It's not based on politics. It's not based on people's feelings. It's based on actual observed weather conditions. So when you hear red flag warning, it's real. Anytime the Weather Service uses the word warning, it's real. It means something. That if you live in tornado country and you hear the word tornado warning, it means it's time to get near your shelter. Monitor TV and radio, news reports. That's one of the best places to pick up on the fact that a red flag warning has been issued, but we want you to monitor local news to understand when fires are burning nearby you, keep abreast of the conditions. and really understand, what the conditions are like out there right now. It can be easy to get lost in our homes and the internet and not realize that something potentially catastrophic is happening outside. We can't emphasize enough how important it is to look and listen and smell and just be observant in your own neighborhood. This is critical. We hear reports all the time from people who say, boy, nobody notified me that there was a fire burning in my neighborhood. We want to notify you. We want to call you and send you an email and send out notifications via the alerting systems, but that may not always happen for a variety of reasons. Sometimes there's just not enough time. The fire can be upon you before there's any time to send out a notification. But with fires, there's always smoke. If you're observant and you're paying attention to what's happening outside, there's a good chance you're going to know about it before any alert was ever sent. So by monitoring the weather, by being alert to your situational awareness, you should understand when the fire risk is high, when a red flag warning has been issued. You should understand when a fire is burning nearby. When those conditions are right, when those conditions are unfolding, we want you to continue to monitor those information sources. We want you to look for changes, and we want you to start your preparation to evacuate. Review your evacuation plan checklist. We're going to email everybody who attended this presentation tonight a copy of Fire Safe Marin's evacuation planning checklist. If you were to visit our website, you can download it right now. It's a fantastic resource for everybody who lives in Marin. We want you to place your emergency supply kit in your vehicle, your GO kit. We're going to talk about what that is in a second, but these are things steps you're going to take when the conditions are right. We want you to prepare yourself, then your kids, then your pets and your home. It should be your kids or anybody who's dependent on you. And it's just like being in an airplane. If those oxygen masks drop down, a parent's first instinct is to put the mask on the kids. But they tell you, put the mask on yourself first. You need to be protected first if you're going to protect those people that depend on you. Do that. You can always leave immediately. We're going to talk about the notifications and the signs and the things to look for. But if you're not sure, you're concerned, and you live in a neighborhood that's really at risk, go ahead and leave. It's not going to hurt you to leave early or leave before a warning comes. That's the go. Go early. Go early when a fire starts. There's no point in waiting around. People who wait for changes in the condition or wait for the embers to start falling on their house are often too far behind the curves to safely evacuate. So to go early, you need to take action early. You need to monitor those notification systems we're going to teach you about. You need to certainly leave immediately if you receive an evacuation order. Leave immediately if conditions worsen. If you see spot fires, tiny fires igniting in the bushes or on your neighbor's property or on your own property, it's too late. It's time to go. You need to leave immediately. You need to leave if you feel unsafe. If you feel unsafe, there's a reason. Your instincts are probably better than you give them credit for. It's time to leave. Follow those checklists that we provide only if you have time. You should understand those checklists and have a basic concept of what's on them long before a fire starts. But if you have some extra time, the fire's burning miles away, you haven't been notified, it's not right upon you, go ahead and go through the checklist. Treat it as an actual list. Check the boxes. Make sure you do everything on those lists. This is what our checklist looks like. It's divided into 3 columns. 1 are things that you do every time there's a fire, every time you need to evacuate or might need to evacuate. Column number 2, the orange column, are things that you're going to do if time allows. Things like shutting the windows to the house, shutting down your heating and ventilation systems, moving outside furniture away from the house, filling buckets of water, propping gates open. Those are all things that can make a big difference on your house's survival, but we don't want you to do those things at your own risk. We want you to do those things if you've got time and your safety is already taken care of. And then the 3rd column are things that you would do when you leave. Certainly if you're leaving and the fire's upon you, if you're evacuating and there's fire near you, but these are things that will help you survive while you're evacuating. You're going to see some more images of that, and we'll talk more about that. In Marin, we've got several notification systems. We can send messages by telephone, voice messages. We can send messages by cell phone over text messages. Alert Marin is our primary alert emergency notification system, and it's the only system we have that can send both voice messages and text messages. It's a modern state-of-the-art system that can ring tens of thousands of phone numbers simultaneously in Marin. It does require that you have communications. It requires that your cell phone, at a minimum, is working and has a signal. If you're at home, it requires that you've got power and you know, a landline phone service that will ring your home phone. We know instinctively now that that doesn't always happen, especially if the power's out before a fire starts. We have other systems that can send text messages like Nixle, WIA, the Wireless Emergency Alert System. We can send out and do send out notifications and information updates over email and the web. These are usually lower level communications. I'll show you in the next slide some more information about that. And then, you know, don't underestimate the importance of old-fashioned AM/FM radios. Air horns and sirens, the long-range acoustical device that is being installed in several communities in Marin right now. NOAA weather radios. You're going to hear a lot more about these weather alerting radios. It's what people in the Midwest use to be alerted when a tornado is nearby, and we're going to be using these more and more to alert people to wildfires because they're battery operated and they don't depend on the internet or the grid. Word of mouth, your neighbors knocking on doors, a knock on the door from a sheriff's deputy are all things that might be used to alert you to changes and to emergencies in your neighborhood. So I mentioned Alert Marin, Nixle, and social media. Alert Marin, again, is our primary notification system. It's a system we use when you need to take action at a specific address. It's always tied to a specific address. We can use it to send notifications to one side of the street versus the other. It's because it's address oriented. We can be very specific about who receives notifications. This can be important when you're trying to stagger the evacuations to limit traffic on roads. It can be important when there are safety hazards and we don't want certain neighborhoods to evacuate. Alert Marin can be used for things beyond wildfires. It will be used for more than just wildfires. Alerts to imminent flooding, wildfires, anything that's potentially a life safety concern in your neighborhood, at your address. Law enforcement will probably use it more than the fire service. It'll be used for during incident information, even information about evacuation routes, shelters, transportation, anything, any kind of critical life-saving information can be sent over Alert Marin. Nixle is a system that's got much more broad use in Marin. Any government agency potentially has access to send out messages by Nixle. It only goes out by text messages, and it only targets entire zip codes. We can't target streets or neighborhoods. So a message sent out to San Rafael residents over Nixle goes out to everybody in the city of San Rafael. That can be overkill and can cause problems. That's one of the reasons it's not the primary notification system, but it will be used. It'll be used to repeat messages, and it'll be used for slightly lower level messages with information on things like road closures, general updates, or any issue that affects a larger area. Social media, these are going to be low-level updates. It's not to say that we won't post information that a neighborhood has been evacuated during a wildfire, but that's not going to be the first place that we send that information out. There may be a lag time between when things are posted on social media and when the announcement was initially made over Alert Marin or the higher level notification systems like the NOAA weather radios. When you receive an evacuation notification, we're going to use very specific terminology. This terminology has been adopted statewide. I still see other language being used, but you should see public agencies, first responders, the fire service statewide begin to adopt this same terminology. An evacuation order is the highest level. It's in the red here. It's truly an order. It's what's often referred to as a mandatory evacuation, but it's when you need to evacuate immediately. There shouldn't be any delay to gather any belongings to prepare your home You should only worry about your personal safety. Get yourself dressed appropriately for evacuation, get your family and your pets and nothing else, and leave. An evacuation warning is given when there's additional time, when there is some time for you to prepare, or we believe that there will be some time for you to prepare, typically 2 hours or more before the Fire Incident Command believes that a fire might reach your neighborhood. So you're going to evacuate as soon as possible. You don't need to delay. You don't need to wait for it to be upgraded to an evacuation order, but you do have some time. This might be when you have a chance to pick up grandma's photo albums or do those steps to prepare the outside of your home. A shelter-in-place warning can mean a number of things. This is probably what you're going to hear most frequently. A shelter-in-place message means that we want you to stay in your home. We want you to dress yourself as though you're about to evacuate from a wildfire. We want you to shut the doors and windows to your home, prepare your home, get your pets and your family ready to go, but we don't want you to leave. That might be because we want you to stay inside because the fire department is eminently capable of fighting the fire and they just need you to stay out of the way. It might be because conditions are so unsafe outside that there's really no other option but for you to stay inside. All of these messages will be accompanied with all of the information that has been verified and can be provided to you. So you'll always have some accompanying information with this. For example, why you're being asked to shelter in place, or if it's known, if there's information about evacuation routes or where you ought to go, that information will be provided too. When it's time to evacuate, when you're you've been given the evacuation order, the warning, or even if you're sheltering in place, we want you to pick up your wildfire and emergency go kit. It's not the time to assemble that kit. You need to do this today. If you don't already have a go kit, we want you to prepare one tonight. We're in fire season right now. You ought to have it. I just tried to launch a poll. Should pop up on your screens. We're asking 3 really simple questions for you. Some of them the last one you're gonna get an answer to in a minute here, but go ahead and try to answer those questions. It's more or less for us to get an idea of how the polling might work in future presentations. So this go kit, we want you to have a go kit that's portable, that's stored in some type of backpack that's easy to carry. It should be something that you can carry without having to use your hands, a backpack. We've got a list of the supplies that we would like to see in each wildfire go kit printed on the evacuation checklist that you'll all receive by email. In the kit, some key items for you to think about are things like a spare set of sunglasses or a spare set of reading glasses if you need them. Extra medications if you depend on medications. The protective clothing we'll show you in the next slide. Extra batteries, an AM/FM radio, flashlights. Firefighters always carry multiple flashlights, and you should too when you're evacuating, because even in the middle of the day, it will be dark as night during a wildfire. Multiple flashlights and spare batteries. A lightweight first aid kit, leather gloves. Make a kit for your pets. If your pets have special needs, make sure you've got a go kit for them with some of their food, their medications, any particular supplies you might need, a leash, and a pet carrier. Keep this near your front door. Keep it in the trunk of your car if you travel in and out of the house often. You might need to put 2 kits together. This is important. If you live in California, you are going to need this kit at some point. There's no doubt about it. We want you to dress for survival when you're evacuating from a wildfire. We want you to cover up your entire body, head to toe. We want you to wear long cotton or wool clothing, leather gloves, leather belt, leather shoes. This is no time to be wearing open-toed shoes. You need to be wearing boots that provide ankle support, that provide protection for your feet with heavy rubber soles. You should wear a floppy cotton hat like that. That's not there to just, this picture looks a little silly. It's somebody from Australia. Maybe not the best fashion sense, but they're dressed to survive a wildfire. That cotton hat will help keep embers out of your hair. You probably saw in the video we opened up with People, running out of the apartment building with embers blowing into their hair. We've seen images of people now with their hair on fire. That hat is a protective item that can help keep you from catching fire. If you've got a hard hat, by all means wear it. It's not going to hurt you, and it will keep the embers out of your hair as well. Protecting your airway with that cotton bandana is important. Well, I know that every one of you has an N95 mask or several with you right now. They're excellent COVID-19 protection, but they're also good protection from the smoke and particulates that are in the air during a wildfire. But that cotton bandana should be covering your N95 mask. The cotton bandana provides some protection for your face and the skin on your face from radiant heat that you might be exposed to from the flames of the fire. Those goggles that this person are wearing are probably one of the most important pieces of safety equipment. The goggles keep embers out of their eyes. If you lose your eyesight because you get a tiny speck of dust or an ember in your eye during a wildfire evacuation, it could cost you your life. You won't be able to drive, you won't be able to evacuate yourself. So eye protection with full coverage goggles that wrap around your eye is critically important. Those leather gloves, likewise, are extremely important. They will allow you to move hot objects out of the way. Everybody's worried about their cars being trapped on the road, being blocked, being unable to proceed. Well, what starts that chain reaction of cars and traffic in the road is typically some type of debris falling into the roadway. And if it falls into the roadway during a wildfire, it's there because it was on fire. It's hot. You will not be able to move it out of the roadway without heavy leather gloves. Wear those gloves while you're driving. Wear them at all times while you're evacuating. Preparing your pets. Can't emphasize the importance of this enough. You need to do these things in advance. That little cat carrier is available on Amazon for about $30. It's got a little annex where you can put food and water for your cat. It's worth investing in. Keep it with your Go kit. You might even put your Go kit inside it to have it ready. At the first sign of a fire in your neighborhood, find your cat or your small dog and put them in the carrier, no matter how much protest they put up. You will not be able to find your cat under the couch when the fire has arrived at your home. Well, your anxiety is going to be high. Your animal will detect that. They get harder and harder to catch the closer the fire approaches. So get your cats and your dogs situated early. Keep them by the front door where the firefighters who come to rescue you might find them. But hopefully that doesn't come to that and you're able to pick them up and evacuate yourself from the fire. Let's see, watch a quick video. This is actually in Sonoma County, less than 6 months ago, the Kincaid fire. Here's a family evacuating. The family's barefoot and taking supplies that they probably don't need to take. Looks like they've got some art supplies, maybe an extra pillow, rolling suitcase. We're not going on vacation. We're looking to survive. We don't want them to leave the dinosaur. Certainly don't leave the kids, but this is a critical situation. This fire is approaching this neighborhood. This family should be in their car and gone already. My apologies if you're the people in the video. Thanks for sharing this if you're watching the presentation tonight, but this is important. Get your family, have your items packed before the fire arrives, have your Go kit ready to go and go quickly. This family needs to get out of the neighborhood. When you evacuate, this is one of the biggest questions we get. It's based on the images that you saw in the video at the beginning. We've got people who are terrified of getting in their car. We're all afraid of burning up, dying in our car. It's a natural anxiety. We understand why you're anxious about that, but we can't emphasize enough that you ought to stay in your car if there's any chance of staying there. You're safer in your car. Your car is a steel and glass box. It's not going to blow up. That only happens in Hollywood. We want you to evacuate in your car as your first choice virtually every time you evacuate a wildfire. Get in your car, roll the windows up, turn the lights on, turn on the inside air. I always joke, usually I get a laugh. I won't know if you're giggling about this, but I always say put your car in skunk mode, the mode that you put it on when you drive by a dead skunk. You're going to go on foot only if there's no other option. We're going to show you some slides here in a second, but we want you to avoid fire roads. I don't care where you live. There's no excuse, no matter how long you've thought that the fire road near your house was a potential evacuation route, it is not. In Marin, there are no evacuation routes that head into open spaces. There are no safe evacuation routes that take you uphill. Your best evacuation route is almost always the fastest route to the valley floor. We like to say that the route that you take to the grocery store is almost always your evacuation route. You know it well, you know exactly how to get there. You could probably drive it blindfolded, and that's the way you should go. We want you to consider refuge areas that you might take refuge along that route. I'll show you a picture of that in a second. And we'd like you to think about carpooling, picking up neighbors, picking up family and friends. Even in your own family, if you have 2 cars, but you can fit your whole family in 1 car, get everybody into 1 car. Make sure you choose the one that's best able to evacuate. Take the SUV with high ground clearance over the Tesla, if that's an option. But also take the vehicle that's got the best range, the one that has a full tank of gas versus running on empty. You need to get yourself out of town. So here we'll have a little discussion about fire roads. Fire roads or evacuating uphill are never an option. Even if you think it's closer to get you to safety, staying on pavement is your best bet. During the North Bay fires, during the campfire in Paradise in 2018, everybody who got in their vehicles and got to pavement and stayed on the pavement survived. It was vehicles that the handful of people who did die while evacuating either drove into burning vegetation, drove off of the paved roads, or were on rural unpaved roads, like fire roads in Marin. So you've got to get onto pavement, stay on pavement, and you've got nearly perfect odds of surviving. If you live in one of Marin's communities that is served by paths or staircases that provide shortcuts to the valley floor, there are limited situations where you might want to take those paths. It's difficult for us to recommend that, but if the fire is approaching you, if it's a distance away, if your evacuation routes on pavement were cut off, that's the only time we would recommend taking those staircases. There are very specific situations, a handful of homes where there's really, this is really a better option than any other, but that's very limited. So for the vast majority of people, staying on pavement and in your car is going to be the best choice. If you live in Mill Valley, which is served by a maintained network of stairs and paths, this might be slightly different for you. We want you to consult with your fire department and talk to them about your options for evacuating during a wildfire. Talk to them about those paths and understand the risks and the benefits and the decision-making matrix that you might need to use to decide whether it's right to take that path. This is one of the images that we think has caused the most anxiety about taking your car to evacuate. We want people to understand that those images out of Paradise, these cars were abandoned by people who ran into traffic on the road. Many of these cars were pushed off of the roadway by bulldozers from CAL FIRE hours later. They were pushed into burning vegetation and they burned up later on the side of the road with no occupants. So a lot of people saw, headlines that said that 88 people died. Then you see this image with the cars burned up and we made the assumption there were people in them. There were not. For the most part, the people who abandoned those cars and ran away on foot probably would have been better off staying in the cars. I can't speak to every situation. And again, if you're from Paradise and you had to make that terrible decision, I would love to talk to you about it and understand what you went through. We're emphasizing that inside the car on the pavement was a safer place to be. I'm going to show you a quick video of somebody driving with fire conditions on the side of the road. I want you to think about what you're seeing here. Oh, maybe.
That sucks. Father, please help us. Please help us to be safe. I'm thankful for Jeremy and his willingness to be brave.
Second video. This is a fire in northern Canada 4 years ago, Fort McMurray. You probably remember hearing about this. Watch the conditions. Look at the fire on the side of the road. Tremendous flames from a forest fire. These are 100-foot tall flames. It's very warm in those cars and the embers are falling. Cars are driving the wrong way against traffic, but they've been instructed to do this by law enforcement. Everybody, all roads are leading out of town at this point. These are horrifying, catastrophic fire conditions, but these people survived. They were able to evacuate by car and they were safer in their car in these conditions. In Marin, all of the Marin fire agencies are working on a variety of evacuation mapping tools. You're going to see the city of Novato, San Rafael, and Fairfax publish these maps first. We're giving you just a sneak peek at an overview map of a draft map from Novato. This is not the final version. But every community in Marin is going to see some type of product like this. They're all based on the same map structure. These are based off of FEMA's Tsunami Clear maps. It's a mapping product that's designed to be easy to read under stress. This is an overview map and it would be accompanied by a number of inset maps showing individual neighborhoods with instructions on evacuation, some information on the primary evacuation routes, and some of the checklist items that we want you to follow during an evacuation. It's a great product. We're excited to see it. You'll see, again, Novato, San Rafael, and Fairfax published first, followed by Kentfield, Larkspur, Greenbrae, and Corte Madera. Then the Southern Marin communities, Mill Valley already has a mapping product, although it'll be brought in line with this, and the other communities should fall in right behind that. This is just a peek at one of the inset maps with specific information. This is, again, the town of Fairfax. One of the things that's depicted on this map, but it's something that we want you to think about, are the concept of temporary refuge areas. These are places that you could take refuge during an evacuation if conditions become untenable, or if traffic is stopped and there's no place for you to go. We want you to think about the places where you'll be safest taking refuge during a fire. Oftentimes those are things like ball fields, any place with an irrigated mowed lawn, parking lots, golf courses, any large open area with little or no vegetation. And we want you to try always to get to the lowest point possible, the valley floor. It really doesn't matter where you are, the valley floor is the safest place for you to be during a wildfire. If you've made it to the valley floor, in most cases, that's the time to give yourself a high five because you've made it. You got to relative safety. You may still be stuck in traffic trying to get to the freeway, but survival was really your goal, and being at the valley floor is a pretty good sign that you've made it. I want you to wait for the danger to pass. If you do take shelter in one of these areas, I want you to listen to instructions from authorities. That might be, if this picture is in Mill Valley, that might be instructions that come over the long-range acoustical device, their air horns, the speaker system. It might be instructions that come to you by radio or by Alert Marin, but listen for any other additional information on when it's safe to move. We want you to think about things now that we've been through one cycle of public safety power shutdowns in Marin. We want you to consider things like battery backups for your garage doors, especially, but also for your communication. For about $99, you can install a garage door battery backup. that will open and shut your garage door. On the packaging for the one they have at Home Depot right now, it says it'll open the door about 50 times during a power outage. It also keeps the button lit up on the wall, makes it easier to find if you need to get out of your garage door at night. And really importantly, it lets you close your garage door behind you. This is important. When you leave, we want you to shut that door behind you to keep embers from blowing into your garage. A battery backup for your phone system can keep your phones ringing. These will run your phones for about 12 hours typically. We want you to be able to receive the phone calls from Alert Marin if the power were to go out overnight while you were asleep and you weren't aware. I don't need to discuss too much the public safety power shutdowns, but I want you to think about the potential implications in a year like this, where there's the potential for a shelter in place like we're already living under due to COVID-19 being impacted by a public safety power shutdown. The governor has suspended public safety power shutdowns in most cases, the preventative ones, but there are still conditions where PG&E may need to shut down the power preemptively when fire conditions are extreme. So monitoring this, being sure that you understand it and you have a good backup plan will be doubly important in 2020, as if it wasn't important last year when we went for a week without power in much of Marin. This slide is really outdated. The reality is I think we're all experts at this now, so might remove this next time. We want you to think about a good insurance checkup. We want you to understand the implications of being underinsured. During the North Bay fires in 2017, we found that 74% of the homeowners who lost their homes were underinsured. They didn't have enough insurance to rebuild their homes, replace their belongings, or live without a home for the length of time it would require to rebuild. The average cost to rebuild a home in Sonoma County was $500 per square foot. I think this number may be a little bit outdated. It's actually revised upwards a little bit. In Marin, we expect the cost to rebuild a home to be closer to $600 to $700 per square foot. I'm willing to bet that almost all of you, if you were to do a good insurance checkup right now and look at your policy, you will find that you do not carry that type of insurance. You don't have enough insurance to rebuild your home the way it is if it burns down. Talk to your insurance agent, get an understanding of what you need, what your policy covers, understand whether your policy covers replacement value for your belongings, and make the updates now. We are in the midst of a one-year moratorium on insurance cancellations, or I apologize, insurance non-renewals in California, again, ordered by the governor. This is something to take advantage of in one sense. It's an opportunity for you to have a frank discussion with your insurance agent without fear of losing your policy. If you're a homeowner who is lucky enough to have paid your home off in Marin, make sure you maintain your insurance. We know that there are a lot of people that carry insurance only because their mortgage company requires them to. You may think that it's late in life and you've lived a great life and you don't need to pay that several $100s a month for insurance anymore, but you really do. We want you to live a lot longer, and we want you to be financially secure if a fire strikes. Get renter's insurance if you're a renter. This is really important. Renters are one of the most underinsured groups out there. And make sure you have at least 2 years of living expense coverage. We want you to know about 2 webinars. These are actually advertised on FireSafe Marin's website. You probably received an email from us alerting you to this, but the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Administration, will be hosting 2 webinars. The first one is Wednesday, May 6th, so in 2 days at 10 a.m., and it's how to prepare yourself financially, wildfire insurance. And then on May 20th, there's going to be one that's how to protect your property. That'll have some overlap with some of the things that we'll talk about, but it's really going to have a insurance focus. It's being hosted by the insurance industry. We participated in these presentations last year and they were fantastic. I learned a lot. It would be worth it for you if you're a homeowner to register to attend those webinars. Let's see if we can get here. So we are wrapping up at about the 45-minute mark here. We have another presentation. We're calling this a presentation on Zone Zero. Zone Zero is the area that's closest to your home, and it's the place that you need to do the most preparation on outside of your home. It's part of your defensible space. And there are some simple, inexpensive things that you can do to protect your home within 5 feet of your structure. That's going to be Wednesday night, May 6th at 6 p.m. via Zoom webinar. Hopefully it'll go a little smoother now that we've got some experience doing this. I'd like to take a chance if there are any questions. I'm going to ask Rich and John Hansen from FireSafe Marin, who've been monitoring questions, if there's anything we should answer live while we still have everybody here. Rich, how are we doing? We got any questions from the audience here?
Right now, there's none. There is a feature for everybody where you can raise your hands, and then I can let you in to speak. I don't see any hands up.
If anybody'd like to ask a question, feel free to ask right now. Well, it looks like maybe one just popped up. Okay, so we've got a question from Lori. She says, I'm a first-time homeowner in Corte Madera. She just got a notice that her homeowner's insurance will not be renewed due to wildfire risk. Do you have any tips about obtaining and maintaining homeowner's insurance? I heard you say there's a moratorium. I'd like you to look into the moratorium. Our understanding was that there is a moratorium in effect right now on those non-renewals. It sounds like if you got that letter, we may be misinformed. So I'm going to do a little research offline. Regardless, if you do receive that letter, you need to follow it immediately. There will be a timeline given. You do have an opportunity to have the fire department write a letter in support of maintaining your policy. The fire department would conduct an inspection of your property and give you a list of items that need to be corrected. We have very good luck helping people retain their homeowner's insurance if they take action within the 30-day typically time period that the insurance company gives you. So I'd ask you to reach out to us offline, email us, or contact your fire department at the opening of business tomorrow at Central Marin Fire Department on Tamalpais Avenue. They ought to be able to help you, give you the best shot of retaining your policy. Yes, so for the webinar, we've got another question asking to repeat the website for the webinar. What we'd like you to do is go to there's a link, it's a long one. It's available at FireSafe Marin's website, firesafemarin.org, under the news section. We published this article announcing it's the upcoming NFPA wildfire webinars. We published that article last week, so if you click on our news page, you'll be able to find the link to it. Let's see, got another question just came up. Kathleen, our good friend Kathleen Cutter, one of the resident leaders of the San Francisco Boulevard Firewise community in San Anselmo, says, I hear there's an alternative to a generator if your power goes out. Something that utilizes your car battery. Are you familiar with this? If so, what is it, and do you think it's worth getting? There are some battery-powered generator alternatives. I don't know of any that actually use a car battery, but some use lithium batteries. They're even available at like REI. They're relatively expensive, usually about the same cost as a generator. You can keep them topped up with a small portable solar panel sometimes. They will not power your whole house, but they can power essential appliances like your refrigerator, radio, charge your cell phone for potentially days during a power outage. You'll have to do some research on that, and you're welcome to reach out to FireSafe Marin. We can give you some recommendations offline. Barbara has asked, someone wanted more info about the weather radios, wants to buy one tomorrow, doesn't know what to look for. FireSafe Marin's website on the evacuation page, firesafemarin.org/evacuation, has links to 2 of the radios that we recommend. We are actively working on a program that we hope will help fund the purchase of some of these radios for people who have financial needs or are unable to afford their own radio in Marin. in the short term that you can order one for about $20 from Amazon. And take a look at our website, firesafemarin.org/evacuation, for some recommendations on some of the basic radios you can purchase.
Todd, if I could just add to that, a radio that is very good is the Midland 120 EZ. That's a great radio. They're probably a little bit closer to $30, but that's probably the best radio for the use that we're talking about here.
It's worth noting, since Rich is speaking, that Sleepy Hollow Fire District has launched a trial program to provide these radios to certain residents in the community, and is looking at expanding that, potentially even to provide the radios to everybody in the community. They're really a neat backup. They sound an alarm. They flash a light when the warning has been sent out. The County of Marin Office of Emergency Services has been working with the National Weather Service and NOAA to ensure that they can send out these messages promptly when necessary. They're not particularly, we can't isolate particular geographic areas. We send them out by a radio tower. One of the radio towers is on Big Rock Ridge in Marin, and they hit everybody in Marin. But during a power outage, it can be one of the best ways for you to receive an alert when something's happening outside. Looks like one of the last questions here. If I live outside a fire dangerous area, like far away from the hills, is it worth removing bushes next to my home to create a 5-foot area of no vegetation? We think it is. Coffee Park is a good example of a community that was in the flats, miles and a freeway apart from the area that was considered the wildland urban interface. The community was impacted by embers that landed in the neighborhood from a fire that was burning miles away. The entire community burned. Several people died in the community. About 1,500 homes burned in Coffee Park. This was devastating. They were homes that weren't expecting this, that weren't prepared, and hadn't taken the steps that neighbors might have if they lived in the hills. So we think fire-resistant, ember-resistant construction techniques, and that 5-foot non-combustible zone around a home would be of value for just about anybody living in California. Certainly in Marin, Sonoma County, San Mateo counties, these counties where there's the potential for a wildfire to burn somewhere within a mile or two of you, it's worth considering taking these steps. Yes.
Todd?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is John. A short answer there is that a fire knows no boundary. And if, especially on a red flag day, every place is a wildland urban interface.
Absolutely. We're going to talk on Wednesday night about how embers ignite homes and really go into much more depth on that. So that anonymous attendee, plan on listening in on Wednesday night. You'll get a good idea of what to look for and the things that you might do. Some of the things are really inexpensive, even free. There are things that you can do in just a few minutes that could make a big difference for your house. Thank you, everybody.
Wait, Todd,
We got more questions.
we have a question here. So go ahead. Oh, no, I missed the name. It's funny, it disappeared. Nadine, go ahead and pose your question. You can talk. Unmute.
She needs to unmute.
Yeah, you need to, right. You need to unmute your, there we go.
You already answered it because then after I put it in the chat or whatever, the Q&A, so you already answered it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it. And if for anybody else, if you hit the hand raised, then we can have you speak rather than you're having to type the question.
That's pretty exciting for us. So please do ask if you got any more questions. We're here.
One more question has to do with chipper days, Todd.
Yeah, so Kathleen asked about chipper services. She says she knows Fire Safe Marin's doing this. How does this benefit us? Fire Safe Marin for 3 decades now has promoted community chipper days. where we have, on-site disposal services that will come chip, brush, trees, limbs, anything, any material that you've cut on your property and help you dispose of it. That can be a big cost savings for you. It can help people who don't have access to a pickup truck to haul material away. And it's been a really popular program, a good community building program. In some ways, we're dubious about the effect it has on communities from a wildfire perspective, because we see people sometimes cutting the wrong vegetation, cutting vegetation that wasn't part of the wildfire problem to begin with. And we don't get the kind of participation that we really need to get to make a big impact on a landscape scale. That said, it's a popular program, and we see the benefit really in community building, getting people interested in doing some work in their neighborhood, sometimes helping a neighbor who needs assistance, and that cost savings can make a big impact for people who otherwise couldn't afford to dispose of vegetation. So Fire Safe Marin right now does not have any funds available directly for chipper days. We think we will soon. There are some particular communities, Black Point in Nevada, we have a grant to help Black Point with chipper days. And we're seeking grant funds from PG&E right now to assist with chipper days in 2020. And we're working with the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority on funding requests that would fund a chipper program on a grand scale, kind of what we've always dreamed of at Fire Safe Marin, for every community in Marin that participates in the MWPA. So we're working on it right now. We don't have any chipper days scheduled from Fire Safe Marin directly. If you live in the community of Sleepy Hollow, you've got chipper days on the calendar funded by the Sleepy Hollow Fire Protection District. If you live in the town of Fairfax, you have at least 4 chipper days planned each year that are funded through your waste disposal fees through Marin Sanitary in the town of Fairfax. If you live in the town of Mill Valley schedules chipper days. Those aren't run by Fire Safe Marin, they're run by the local agencies. So in those communities, absolutely reach out and look for information. Reach out to your fire department if you live in a town that wasn't named there.
Todd, Kathleen can speak now. She may have a couple things to add here.
Sure.
Well, I unfortunately I joined in late, but I had just a couple questions or comments about how we can help our immediate neighborhoods. I am the Firewise, one of the coordinators for the San Francisco Boulevard Firewise site, and we live right below Faude and Storage Parks, and we have volunteer days that are put on by the local residents. And if people are interested in volunteering to clear brush or participate in that, or wondering if a high schooler, right now it's probably can't happen, but high schoolers needing to do volunteer hours, if there's, reach out to your Firewise sites, because they would be able to put you in touch with those individuals who can make that happen, which is another way of helping to make our communities more fire safe.
Yeah, great points. Or certainly reach out to your Firewise community if you live in one. For those of you that don't know, Marin participates in the National Firewise USA program. Fire Safe Marin helps administer this program. It's a recognition program that recognizes communities that are doing extraordinary work to protect their neighborhood. Marin is the most active county in the nation for the Firewise program. Right now we have, how many sites, John?
65.
65 recognized sites, or really neighborhoods, nationally recognized for the work they're doing. We still have a lot of neighborhoods that have not stepped up to this program yet, but the ones that have organized, and you probably have one near you, have a community contact, neighborhood leaders like Kathleen, who you can reach out to for help, for assistance, for resources, even things like materials from Fire Safe Marin. They can help get that to you. And certainly if you have any kind of additional needs, whether you need assistance hiring somebody, if you've got access or functional needs, we're willing to step up and help you. We will help you, find the answers to your questions and get the support you need. to make yourself safe. Looking, any additional questions? Kathleen asked about San Anselmo's age-friendly San Anselmo. It's reaching out to elderly residents who need assistance with evacuation. There are a number of programs like that underway in Marin. I can't speak specifically to what age-friendly San Anselmo is doing, but we'd like to know more and work with them. So, thanks everybody.
Age-friendly San Anselmo is starting an NRG program, NRG coordination program in San Anselmo for one thing, incorporating their age-friendly aspects. So yeah, that's what I got from Yvonne recently.
Good. And somebody asked where are the animals that are sitting behind me? Those are our goats. Interestingly, so that's a video that's playing. It's not live. I wish I was there right now, but that's in the hills of Sleepy Hollow. Those goats are actually there right now. If you were to go for a walk, which you're allowed to do if you live in the neighborhood, you can walk out the path on the ridge near Fawn Drive and find the goats there right now. They're doing work to reduce wildfire hazard risk and create a shaded fuel break along the ridge between Sleepy Hollow, San Anselmo, Fairfax, and Terra Linda. They've been doing this for 3 years. We graze about 600 acres a year in those communities. Fantastic, very popular program, a cost-effective way to reduce vegetation and do it in a way that's very environmentally sensitive. So yeah, we encourage you to, if you live in the neighborhood, go for a walk and take a look at the goats. Looks like that's about it.
Got one more, one from Jim Casper here. Jim, let me free you up to talk on this, all right? Go ahead and unmute and you can speak.
So this is Jim Casper, Southern Marin area, Tam Valley specifically. Just wanted to add on to what Todd mentioned, that Marin View, which is about a 250 home community in Tam Valley, with the local community services district and Marin County Parks, is also going to have goats starting a week from yesterday. They should be arriving on May 10th. So anybody in the Southern Marin, in the Marin View area, as Todd mentioned, if you're in walking distance, you should be able to see the goats showing up on Sunday. They'll be here for about 3 weeks.
Fantastic. Yeah. Popular program, one that we're looking to expand. Again, Fire Safe Marin is working with the newly formed Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority to work with them to try to expand the goat grazing where it's appropriate throughout the county, to find additional funding from our tax dollars, which are intended to go towards wildfire prevention projects. We really want to encourage the use of grazing animals to do that where it's appropriate. Now, it could be goats, sheep, cows in some cases. It's a good natural way. Those animals have been in Marin a lot longer than we have, and they do an excellent job in a lot of cases. They're not appropriate everywhere, and they're usually not appropriate on individual smaller properties. They do work on bigger properties, 10 acres or more. So usually fairly limited to public lands or large private parcels. We work with them at the edge of communities, typically right at the edge of the houses, trying to reduce fuels, vegetation fuels. So when a fire reaches a community, the fire intensity drops as it reaches the area that's been grazed and reaches the homes. So,
This is Rich. I just want to follow up with the last question for Kathleen. Actually, Fire Safe Marin or FireWise is not the one that is actually directly funding the goats. So it really depends on where the goats are working, but by and large, the property owner is funding the goat grazing. That may change in the future as the NWPA gets stood up. So for example, if they're on open space land, open space is paying for that, or the town of Fairfax or the town of San Rafael. So I really want to give credit to all those agencies that are really the ones funding the goats. And there are definitely some private property owners with larger properties who participate and fund that too. The Santa Medical School, Triple C Ranch, Rocking H Ranch, and whatnot. They oftentimes don't get credit for doing that work, but the goats, somebody's got to pay for it.
Yeah. So Fire Safe Marin raised about $20,000 last year through a number of fundraisers for specifically earmarked for goat grazing. So we'll just be funding a couple small grazing projects, one in Fairfax, one we're still working to identify a location in Mill Valley. And then we're assisting all of the goat grazing operations throughout the county. The town of Novato and Novato Fire District, the city of San Rafael, and Corte Madera and the county parks and open space all have independently started their own grazing programs, and we work with them, advising them on and helping them organize those programs.
Another question from Nick here.
Where can we access the recording? Thank you for the compliment. We're happy to be working on this. We'll publish this recording. We're going to take a look at it. I think it's going to be available online at Facebook. We're broadcasting live on Facebook right now, but the technology is new to us, so we got to figure out exactly where it's going to go. My gut says it'll be on the Living with Fire page, our education page at Fire Safe Marin. We'll try to get the word out when the recording is available. Thanks for asking.
I think we got it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate you attending. This was good and interesting. I wish we could do this live. It's always nice to see everybody's faces, but I think this is a good way to reach people, especially this unique year. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.